Hi everyone, I'm Mia,
And I'm Laura.
and welcome to the Stories Behind Research podcast.
Today we are welcoming our first guest, Alexis Zhang, a high school senior who conducted wet lab neuroscience research, coded and launched an award-winning app, and founded her own nonprofit centered around mental health.
Okay, so first, we would like you to introduce yourself, like your name, grade, some facts about yourself, just general, and then we'll go into some more specific questions.
Yeah, of course. My name is Alexis Zhang. I'm currently a senior at Newark Academy in Livingston, New Jersey, and I'll actually be studying at UPenn next fall, where I'll be majoring in neuroscience and planning to minor in philosophy. I would say like my strongest background is probably in Alzheimer's research, so that's what I spent a lot of time in high school doing, and a lot of like mental health advocacy. So, yeah.
That sounds really cool. And I know you said you're going to UPenn, which is really impressive. I was wondering if you could share some of your high school like academic stats or what courses, classes you took to get there.
Yeah, of course. So I know going to Newark Academy, it's like quite particular or unique in that we can take the IB diploma or International Baccalaureate. So I chose to enroll in that, and particularly, I guess, for STEM classes, I took IB Bio. That was the only science kind of class I took, as well as IB Math HL, but I took all sciences for the honors, so biology, chemistry honors, physics honors. And I think I was taking pre-calc honors in freshman year. So I had taken multivariable calculus in my junior year. So I'd say I'm also like pretty passionate about math, and that's always something that I've kind of been accelerated in. So those are kind of academic stats. Are you guys talking about just in school, or so, like I can talk about AMC testing scores or like clubs, stuff like that, but
Um, I think we'll save those questions for later since we have like a list. Um, if you don't mind sharing, did you take the ACT or the SAT? Since I know a lot of people panic about like standardized testing and stuff.
yeah, I took the SAT. For me, it was actually I thought it was a pretty big deal, but I submitted a 1600, so I super scored for 800 in math and reading. I mean, I think it's just, I took it about 3 times, so that's like quite a few. But honestly, I know a lot of my peers had like 1560s and are going to amazing schools. I really don't think ACT or SAT matters, but for me, I knew that like testing scores was one of the places I wanted to be my strong suit. So I really wanted to make sure that I was like getting it to the highest standard possible. So
So, moving on to things you did outside of school. So, concerning like research, which is like our main topic for this podcast, what were some of your main research projects or interests that you did throughout high school?
yeah, I can go chronologically. My freshman year summer, I actually did um, it was like a data analysis project. So I was in Michigan with my dad over the summer where he works, and I was able to work with a professor who works in a lot of data analysis and computer science. So I kind of knew I was already interested in neuroscience at that point. So I did a project on mild cognitive impairment, which is basically a stage before Alzheimer's, which can help you diagnose for whether Alzheimer's will develop later on. And so I ended up writing a paper with her and publishing it in the Journal of Emerging Investigators as the first author. So the Journal of Emerging Investigators is basically open for specifically high school students, and I think it's like so impressive to be able to put that on your resume. So that's something I definitely recommend. And so that was my freshman year summer, and then sophomore year summer, I'm pretty sure I took it easy. I was mainly studying for my SAT and things like that. But by my junior and senior year summer, I had applied for Regeneron mentorship program, which I think I've talked to Mia briefly about, but
Yeah.
it's specifically, yeah, it's Regeneron hosts STS, like so the Science Talent Search, which is a massive science competition. And I was basically paired with a mentor, and I did a lot of wet lab research, meaning I was working, instead of in front of a computer and coding, I was working in the lab with mice, brain tissues from human patients, and a lot of pipetting. So that was definitely like probably one of my highlights of my high school research experience. So those were definitely my two main research projects.
Okay, that's so interesting. I think one thing that a lot of students are like unsure about is like how they actually start a project and then like how they get the idea and how they actually start doing the idea. So could you maybe talk about how you did that for your research?
I would say I know there's a lot of stress into like figuring out what you want to do, but to be honest, for me, it was like more like figuring out, I think it's important first step just to know broadly what you're interested in, and then like do not waste time in reaching out to professors because opportunities often close up really soon. There are so many other high schoolers who are like passionate about science. So if you know you want to study like oncology or cancer research or in my case like neuroscience, I didn't even know I was specifically passionate about Alzheimer's, but I just happened to land on a professor who was also doing that project, who was willing to take me, and that was after like numerous rejections because no one really wants to take a freshman or a sophomore because it's kind of harder to like train them, but there's always going to be at least one person. You just need one yes, and I think from there on you can kind of let, in my opinion or from my perspective, like let your mentor guide you. It's really hard to know what you want to do as a like beginning high school researcher. So I would say like really try to be more interested in what your mentor is doing than trying to kind of curate your own project, because that's just more kind of the harder way to go about it. So
Yeah, thank you for this really helpful advice for newcomers in research. So I was wondering, you do a lot of work in like neuroscience and like regarding like the brain and that system. So I was wondering like what made you interested in that field, and especially like you're studying that in college. So how did you know that this is kind of what you wanted to focus on?
yeah, so I had two main personal events that had kind of led me to want to pursue neuroscience. The first being, I think, is a pretty common experience. A lot of people's grandparents kind of eventually develop some sort of neurodegeneration, and that's
Mhm.
really common. So, for example, my grandfather has Parkinson's, which is under the umbrella of dementia and adjacent to Alzheimer's. So that was one of the reasons that I was particularly passionate about it, but also I had a best friend who had passed away when I was a freshman from brain cancer, and that was something that was really close to my heart. And I wrote about that in a lot of my supplemental essays to these different research opportunities, and I think that was one of the reasons why I had been chosen for some selective opportunities. I think that like when you show people that you have a really personal experience that makes you really passionate about something, they are almost more appealed by or more convinced of, I guess, your commitment to a subject. So yeah.
Thanks for sharing that. And also, yeah, so I know you're talking about the Regeneron internship, which is like super competitive. But like outside of that internship, did you also do like research on your own and like continue after the program, or was it like mostly within the program?
Hmm. Um, I would say the one that got published in JEI, so the Journal of Emerging Investigators, was I would say like 20 to 30% mentor driven, given that she like had introduced me to the topic and kind of trained me through how to use the different coding programs. But I would say 80% of the work was up to me during the school year. So while I was juggling my schoolwork, I was also trying to write the paper. And I would say that's where it comes down to your ability to have time management. And as for Regeneron, that was really something that I was kind of confined to the lab to, because I could really only conduct research or like gather new data in the lab. So that was only available to me during the summer.
Also, really quickly, for the Journal of Emerging Investigators one, was that the data analysis project you did in freshman year?
Yeah, it was. Um, But yeah, it does take a lot of I also know I was inspired because one of my upperclassmen actually when I was a freshman had published in JEI. Her name's like Siona Bordia, and she's actually going to UPenn right now. But like it's such a complicated it took me like almost a year and a half to get it published. So I'd say you just have to like be there for the long haul. Like there's almost tens of rounds of like editing and processing. So it's just like patience and dedication to like a singular project over time.
Thank you for walking us along your kind of research journey for that project. And you mentioned that you needed to kind of juggle your schoolwork as well as like the research you did outside of school. So, what is some advice that you would give to first-time researchers or student researchers, and maybe like some things that you wish you knew before you started researching?
Yeah. I would say advice for being able to juggle research in school. I would say just remember school always is a priority. Like you can put off research for as long as you want and pick it back up at any time, but school is like something that should always take precedence over your research. But I would say for me, it was like really finding the times in between. So like I'm also an athlete and I like used to play the viola with Mia in school. So like those were all things that like took up my time, but like when I was on car rides in between different activities or when I would have free periods or lunch breaks, like really utilize those time periods because a lot of the time I saw like my peers kind of using them to like go off with their friends. But really, if you're trying to do a high level of research and also perform well in school, it does take a certain amount of sacrifice and being able to like really see the time gaps and use them well. So.
Yeah, I think that's really important. And also, beyond just like publishing, did you also bring the research to like any conferences or?
Yeah. So Stanford has a neuroscience forum that I had actually been selected to present at. So that's one of the conferences that I attended on Zoom with my Regeneron project. And trying to think conferences, that was probably one of the only conferences, but then also like the Terra New Jersey science fair I'd also been to, which I guess could kind of count as a conference since there's like poster presentations. So yeah.
Yeah, I know like that one, it advances into ISEF, but like that one's like it's like really competitive. So, but I think a lot of people they like presenting their research projects at like science fairs. So that's really interesting too.
Yeah, I would say, sorry, I know Laura just asked a question about advice to other student researchers, but
Yeah.
I would say something to be wary of is if you are doing something that requires like animal studies, so for example, mice or human brain tissue, just know that like it's going to be significantly harder to get your research published or like win awards just because mice studies typically take longer to like kind of generate data for just because like I was basically waiting for the mice to develop diseases and then sack them, which basically just means like killing them to use them for data analysis, which is kind of dark, but like cell studies are a lot easier to succeed in. So I really recommend like, especially high school researchers who are looking to like get awards to probably look to cell study research rather than like animal studies. So yeah.
Yeah, thank you for that advice. We also kind of wanted to touch on the Congressional App Challenge and your work for that, since we know that you won some pretty big prizes for that. So, can you kind of walk us through like what did you do, what kind of project did you submit, and what was that process like for you?
Yeah, of course. So like I said earlier, mental health advocacy was like a pretty big part of my high school career, and also I think that neuroscience and mental health kind of go hand in hand. So that was kind of like also who I kind of presented myself as in my college applications as someone who's passionate about neuroscience and mental health, which was very fitting or intuitive for people to understand. So in my sophomore year, I started a project with Audit Shrivastava. I'm not sure if you're probably familiar with him, but yeah, he's attending Harvard next fall. And we were both pretty passionate about mental health and arts. So we decided to begin like a coding project just for fun and to see where it went. And over the summer, we kind of taught ourselves a couple really simple coding languages like HTML, CSS, and JavaScript. And through that, we were able to build like a pretty simple app called Tranquil Tally. And it basically has like mood tracking, bullet journaling, and other functions that are supposed to increase mental wellness and help teenagers specifically like get into the habit of journaling and expressing their emotions. And we submitted it to the Congressional App Challenge just because it seemed like a really cool opportunity. But we ended up winning for our district. It's by district, I think. So
Yeah, that's really cool. Also, one question that I have is like, for Congressional App Challenge, it was mostly coding, and then for like your research, it was like wet lab research. So do you think that like for students who want to do research, they should be able to do both wet lab and like coding, kind of have like both of these skills, or would you like prioritize one over another?
I would definitely say it matters. If you're talking about like more for college application purposes or going into like I would say applications, I would say it's really depends on what major you're pursuing. So for neuroscience, I would say it's relatively important. So I know a lot of people look for like coding backgrounds. Also, I wanted to come off as more as like a well-rounded student, so someone who's able to have like a multitude of skills. So the fact that I could code carried from my JEI project all the way into the Congressional App Challenge. But if you're trying to major in something like biology, I honestly don't think it's like necessary to have coding experience. But
Yeah. Oh, another question is like, do you have any fun stories from when you were in the lab? Like, what you particularly enjoy about doing wet lab research?
Yeah, I would say this probably connects back to like my minor in philosophy, but I'm not sure if this is necessarily fun, but I think being able to see the process with which like scientists go about like ethically sourcing their materials, because you are sacrificing so many animals' lives in the name of like progress in research. I thought that was so fascinating. The fact that like people who seem very kind of straightforward and pursuing data and hard numbers can also like weigh the ethical benefits of like producing a drug treatment for Alzheimer's patients versus like maybe the lives of a couple thousand mice. It's really fascinating. It's always been something that has drew me towards philosophy. So like that's really interesting to me. And also I would say like I volunteered at nursing homes all the time. And I would say like it was so interesting to be able to interact with memory care patients. So specifically those with like the same neurodegenerative diseases as my grandparents, because I don't know, it's always just kind of fun. It was the highlight of my day because they would like remember you sometimes, and they just say funny things. So I think that's like the patient connection. So beyond just being in the lab, I can also connect with the people that I aim to benefit. So
yeah, that sounds really fun to work with like people and build connections through these research projects. So on that kind of topic, do you want to share about any other extracurriculars you did, like for example volunteering, or anything else you did outside of research?
Yeah, of course. I would say the other really significant extracurricular that I did was founding my own non-for-profit. So it's called Vibrant Waves. It's another mental health organization that I kind of made an umbrella for Tranquil Tally, the app that I submitted to the Congressional App Challenge. So Tranquil Tally is basically like a combination of arts and mental health. And it was for like intergenerational connection. So Mia also helped me out for this. So like I would take or like get a group of high school students or even younger, like middle school students, and have them like play music at nursing homes, or we would do like different meet and greets. We would do like speed dating with people in the nursing homes, which is like a fun activity. So like planning out these different kinds of activities to both decrease like the decrease the isolation that a lot of nursing home patients feel on a day-to-day basis, and also I feel like the lack of connection that teenagers can sometimes possess. That was kind of like the main mission statement of Vibrant Waves. So that was like a massive extracurricular that I would say it's like my top 3 extracurriculars that I think again tied into like the whole neuroscience mental health narrative.
Yeah, I know like a lot of students are like passionate about starting nonprofits these days. So like what would you say was the biggest obstacle in founding a nonprofit basically?
I would say that the biggest obstacle is probably making your impact substantial. Like, I think that it's so easy to found a non-for-profit and like register under the 401c or whatever, and kind of say that you are like a founder of a non-for-profit and like make a website or Instagram account or whatever. But to actually say you've had substantial impact, especially for like these college applications and when you present it to other people, I think you need to be able to say, like, how many people have I impacted? How big is my organization? How many members does it include? How much money have I fundraised? Like, those are all numbers that really help you get even more funding. For example, like, I think a couple months ago, maybe half a year ago, I got like $4,000 in funding just based off of like the number of events I've planned and like the way I pitched my non-for-profit. So I would say just like persistence is probably the biggest one. Even if your events start out with like 4 people coming and it seems like an empty room, like as long as you continue doing outreach and you continue showing people that you're passionate about it, there will be more students who want to like join you and join your leadership board and also come to your events. So yeah, that's probably the main thing.
Yeah, so you mentioned that you raised around $4,000. I'm kind of curious, like, what kind of initiatives did you run or organize in order to raise that money, and how did you plan that out?
Yeah, of course. So basically it was under this organization. I think it's like the youth. I'll need to get back to you on that. It's like the Youth Grant Fund, but it's like this massive fund where you can apply for money, basically. It's specifically designed for high schoolers, and you just submit like a 3-minute pitch. And they select a couple people, and they give you like, you ask for a certain amount of money and they decide whether they'll give you half of that, the full amount of money you were asking for. But you just need to be really clear about exactly what you're using the money for. So for example, I was like, I'm using $1,000 for the upkeep of my app Tranquil Tally, $2,000 for maybe like hiring speakers to come into my events. So like, it's not really a specific initiative, but rather like your whole non-for-profit. And then they decide whether they want to give you that money. And there's so many opportunities out there that are willing to give students money. You just need to like put yourself out there and be willing to put in the work to ask for it or like pitch yourself. So.
Yeah, that's so cool. And also you mentioned Tranquil Tally. So one thing about building apps is like, how do you get more people to like start using your app and get more publicity and stuff like that?
Yeah, so one of my things originally was that I wanted to introduce it to the NA community, but I felt that it wasn't in its final testing stages to be used by high schoolers because I know that it's kind of, one of the obstacles was it's kind of hard to get high schoolers to use something consistently, if that makes sense. Like, yeah. I'm not sure how many of my friends would want to journal every day for like 15 minutes on my app. So yeah, I brought it to the senior centers actually, and that's the way I was able to get, I think I had like almost 200 users, Audit and I combined. It helps to have like a co-founder, really, because they can do, they can increase your workload your results twofold because they're also working towards the same goals. But I went to about 3 or 4 senior centers and I basically just had them use the app and had them register and took in their feedback and implemented their feedback back into the app. So that was mainly my demographic and the majority of the users that I had for Tranquil Tally.
Yeah, thank you for sharing that. And yeah, I just want to like say that Vibrant Waves is such like an impressive nonprofit. And kind of like other than that, we know that in the beginning of this meeting, you said you did math competitions. So I was wondering, how did math and like this kind of like technical competition help you in other spots like research or your nonprofit?
Yeah. Yeah, I did. So I'm actually one of my involvements in school, which I think is really important to me, is math club. So I'm one of the leaders alongside I think a couple of other peers in my grade. But for me, I think it was so I ended up doing AMC, and I qualified for AME 2 or 3 times, and that takes a lot of work in itself. I think it's not easy to be good at competition math. Like for me, that was a whole struggle. Like the amount of dedication you have to like get good at competition math, and then really love like doing the problem solving portion of it. But I would say the ways it bled into my research. That's interesting because I honestly, I'm not too sure how helpful it was for my like research in the lab. Qualifying for AME was definitely one of my bigger ones. So it was helpful in that way, but not necessarily in like me conducting the research at all. So
Yeah, I remember the math club. Like you guys were doing presentations all the time. I think that was fun.
yeah.
Um, we also know that, like you mentioned, you were majoring in philosophy. Do you think that like you also did a lot of extracurriculars for philosophy, or is that mostly just vibrant waves?
So I did take IB, so I took 2 years of IB philosophy. I think it's important if you're majoring in something that you've at least taken the class or like to the IB level, because that just shows how like dedicated you are to it in school and your rigor. But beyond that, that's actually funny because in junior year I said to a lot of people or a lot of adults that I wanted to minor in philosophy, and they were like, you have no extracurriculars to support that, so you might as well just like forget about it because it's not really, you're not competitive with all the other philosophy students. But I ended up writing an essay for the John Locke global essay competition, if you guys have heard of it. I know it's kind of the more humanities side, but I really recommend it to any high schooler because it's I don't think all that hard to like write a 2,000 word essay. It's kind of just like an IB research length. So it's 2,000 words, and I ended up winning like very high commendation, or like high commendation, and that was like I think like the top 2% of essay writers. But like there's so many people who submit essays because of school assignments, so it's really fun experience, and that was one of the only awards I put down for philosophy. So yeah.
Yeah, that's really cool how you kind of touch on like all aspects of like science, math, and also philosophy. So like outside of like academics and STEM, I know you said that you are also an athlete and that you play the viola. Do you have any kind of like stories about that, or like how you managed your time doing that as well?
Yeah, I did. Um, yeah, tennis was definitely a huge commitment, and I played all throughout high school. But my sophomore year, I tore my ACL in a sports injury, which is one of the reasons why I had so much time to code Tranquil Tally, because I was in the hospital for about half a year. And so I think as for tennis, it was like super hard to juggle tennis and academics in the beginning of my high school career. But towards my senior year, I think you just get the hang of it. And like I said, like when you're traveling to different matches all the time and you're trying to juggle, it's really all about like the time in between. So like on the bus rides, I'd be trying to finish my homework, or like on the car rides back home from matches, I would be like trying to type out an essay or something like that. So it's really like trying to squeeze everything into like the extra space was like the way that worked best for me. Yeah, but that's for tennis at least. So
Yeah, that's really cool. Just between research and extracurriculars, is there any like general advice you would give for maybe high schoolers who are feeling a little lost on what they need to do between like academics and like, I don't know, passion projects, I guess?
yeah, I know it's really hard because like you feel like you don't have a lot of time left, and it's really hard not to fall into like the pit of comparison. I would say that like just my number one piece of advice is like, if you feel behind, it's probably a sign that you need to like start just taking little steps, even if they're baby steps, like getting down the names of all the opportunities that you want to apply for, or drafting a really rough email to like a potential professors or multiple professors. Like I would often get into these slumps where like I felt like super behind, or like I didn't have many achievements or like accolades, and then I would just like waste time being worried about them. But I think honestly, like my biggest piece of advice is, rather than spending your time being worried, it's more worthwhile to spend your energy actually doing something like substantial that will help you arrive at your goal. So I would say yeah, just taking those really minute or seemingly insignificant steps build up over time. So even if you dedicate like literally 15 minutes to doing something, it will pay off. It will pay off so much more later on. Yeah.
Yeah, thank you for sharing all of these really impressive work that you've done throughout high school. So to kind of wrap up this interview, we were wondering, what are your future plans, especially like in the coming fall, you're going to be going to college. So do you have any future goals, especially like in STEM or just like in general?
Yeah, I would say that like one of the benefits of UPenn is that it's super pre-professional, and that's one of the reasons why like I fell in love with the school in the first place. So I'm companies like Neuralink, you guys should read about it because it's so fascinating. It's like a combination of helping paraplegic people basically use their brains to control their external surroundings. So fascinating, and I think that that's definitely what I want to pursue in college. So yeah.
Yeah, so I think we've gotten to the end of our questions for you today. So yeah, thank you so much for joining us with on this episode today. And yeah.
Yeah, we really loved hearing your story. It was so interesting. And thank you so much for being here today.
Wait, I'm so glad. And this is honestly like such an amazing like project to get started, as I said in the beginning. Like, so I hope you guys have so much more luck with talking to other people. Yeah, and I'm so honored to be the first guest on your podcast. So
yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you.
Great. Bye, guys.
All right, bye.